Christy with Superskum.com, and I'm here with Josh from As I Lie Down. How's it going?
Good, just hanging out. Just got done playing a couple hours ago. Pretty packed, and it was a pretty fun set, so can't complain.
All right, it's your first time doing Rockstar Mayhem with 1 week in. What's your impression?
Awesome. I mean, every day the crowds are equally as cool. You know, people I think look forward to it all year because it's pretty much the only like heavy metal, you know, extreme metal festival that goes on tour everywhere. So it's like become, you know, it's like as, you know, well known as the Warped Tour or something like that. So I think it's like when you play Mayhem, you know you're going to have a lot of insane metal fans there just because it's like the one big, you know, moment of the year, I think.
Going from that, how do you think Rockstar Mayhem compares to Warped Tour, if at all?
It's a completely different thing, you know. I mean, Warped Tour, I guess you could maybe say it's more diverse because there's super heavy metal bands. Like we've done Warped Tour twice, done it with bands like Killswitch Engage, All That Remains and stuff. So I mean, they have the heavy bands more so now actually than they ever have. But there's also, you know, like the pop bands, got a few hip hop bands. So it's like it's a little more diverse. But I think because of that, maybe it's not as quite an aggressive of a crowd, which for us, it's awesome to look out and see, you know, people just losing their minds. So I think even though Warped Tour is like really high energy and we'd love to do it again, it's cool when you know that there's just this metal fan base, you know, that they're there just to see metal, and it's definitely pretty evident, so it's cool.
All right, and you guys play at clubs and at festivals. Which do you prefer, and can you give us the pros and cons of both?
Well, of course, you know, looking out with 10,000, 20, 30, whatever thousand people in front of you, feels crazy. It feels surreal. It almost feels like you're not really playing because it's just like it's like a dream kind of. But those are really fun because the ones you look back on, you're like, oh, when we played Main Stage Download or we played Wacken Festival and I couldn't see the end of the people. But for an example, the other night we played in Portland at a 450 capacity club. It was just us and two local bands. So it was like stage and people's faces were right in front of my hand. You know, I'm playing guitar and like the energy was just off the charts. You know, people were getting on stage, which I mean, you got to be careful, but yeah, it was freaking awesome. You know, it's really cool to feel the energy and actually feed off of it, and it's like a circle. You know, they're feeding off your energy and you're feeding off them, and that's where I think a small show might be more desirable than a big festival show, but that's not always true. You know, sometimes like, you know, we leave Wacken just feeling like we just conquered the world, so it's a tie, I think.
And your new album, Awakened, it's to be released in September. Can you tell us a little more about it?
Yeah, it's funny because we did the record out here in Fort Collins, you know, just a few minutes from here. Bill Stevenson actually did it, and he, you know, I don't know if you guys are familiar, but he was like the drummer of Black Flag, Descendants, All, you know, a lot of, you know, legendary punk bands and hardcore bands. So it was kind of a departure for us to have a producer who was kind of looking at it in the scope of the whole song and not like, oh, that part doesn't sound shreddy or metal enough. You know, it would be more like, does this part complement the song? And I think having that perspective, that's a lot different because we've usually had producers that were, you know, focused in metal. So I think that having Bill there definitely added something to the record, like songwriting wise, that we couldn't have had any other way.
And the Powerless Rise, it took a while for you guys to write and record. How did you guys approach this new one?
I mean, it was pretty similar. And you know what's funny is that the Powerless Rise actually was probably written in about the same amount of time as this one. It's just we took some time between Ocean Between Us and Powerless Rise to release a DVD, and that takes a lot of time. You know, it's just a lot of production involved with that. So I think that put us maybe about 6 months behind, and so people were like, oh, you guys haven't released a record in almost 3 years. But for this one, you know, we had just done Decus, and we had just finished doing a tour with Amon Amarth back. Actually, we did the Decade of Destruction tour in the States last December. But we kind of just, everybody was writing separately, and we bring it together, write demos. And I want to say this record was actually recorded in half the time that Powerless Rise was recorded in, because Adam D, who was doing our last record, had to leave halfway through to do some stuff with Killswitch Engage. So it kind of forced us to wait to finish it. But on this one, we recorded the whole record, you know, front to back in, I think, 3.5 weeks, which was about half as long as the last one. So it probably just, you know, seemed like everything moved along a lot faster because of just how quick the schedule was and just how we just knocked it out really quick.
And your last two albums got on the top 10 of the Billboard 200 charts. Did this really put on the pressure for Awakened?
You know, I mean, it's one of those things we don't think about that. We're writing a song like, this is going to be a number 8 on the Billboard charts riff, or the, you know, we're kind of just writing what we want to write. And of course, that's always in the back of our heads. You know, we'll think, man, it would be really nice to have another record in the top 10 first week. But in the grand scheme, it matters a lot less than just writing a good record. You know, it's not going to bum us out if we get a top 10 record at all, but it's also, it can't be the goal, because if you're focusing on doing that, then we would be writing a Nickelback record instead of a Nasally Dying record, I think.
And you've been with Metal Blade for a while now. For you, how important are your record labels?
I mean, record labels, I think, vary in importance from band to band, but Metal Blade has always been awesome to us as far as giving us the complete artistic and creative control over, you know, the artwork, the songs themselves, and, you know, what songs we want to be for videos and stuff. And they've always really trusted us, and I think, you know, I think that really helps when you're writing a record and you're not, you know, having this A&R guy breathing down your neck telling you have to write a song with a big catchy chorus when, you know, you want to just write a heavy jam or whatever. So I think it's cool that Metal Blade, you know, has had so much time in the industry and seen fads come and go, and they realize that there's not a formula to what's going to happen for the band. It's a mix of the hard work and everything, but it's also just luck and, you know, magic. You know, there's not a formula or any kind of proven method that, you know, would make a record do really well. It's just write the best record you can and hope for the best.
And earlier this year, you announced Bill Stevenson as the producer. How did you guys decide on him, since he comes from a different musical background?
Well, you know, we were talking about producers, and we had thrown out the normal names like Adam D and stuff. Not like Adam D is just like any producer. Like, we love Adam and we love to work with him again, but he was not available due to Killswitch. So when we were throwing the names around, we knew that we weren't going to be able to use Adam. So we're really going through it, and we were thinking, you know, it's 10 years in, we just hit the decade mark for our band, so why don't we at least explore some other options? So we were talking to a lot of different producers, and we talked to Bill, because I'd brought Bill up because I love the band Rise Against. You know, they're, to me, really cool because they're the perfect blend of an aggressive, you know, hardcore punk vibe, but they also write some of the catchiest choruses of all time. And so being a bass player in the band as well, Bill Stevenson gets the best bass tones of anybody in the world. So that was my selfish motivation for it. But so I brought it up, and, you know, we were talking to everyone on the phone, and Bill was the first guy we talked to on the phone that had really, really listened to our discography so many times, or, you know, he had listened he paid so much attention to details that he was giving us, like, on this song I thought the bass tone really stood out, but I thought on this song maybe you could have done this. We're like, wow, he is a really observant guy, and so he was really funny and easy to talk to. So we talked about it more and found out, you know, got everything to work out schedule-wise, and it just happened, and it turned out, I think, to be a really, really good call. So
recently you shot a music video and had an open casting call. How did that work out for you?
It was great. It's for a song on the record called A Greater Foundation. It's going to be the first single, like official single, because Cauterize, I guess you could count that as a single, but it's going to be the first one with a video. And so it was kind of supposed to simulate a really crowded and rowdy small club vibe, like, you know, concert kind of live feel. So we wanted to make sure that whoever came was definitely knowing that they were going to be, like, physically exerted throughout the day, which we got some funny comments online, because I guess the casting call specifically mentioned athletic males, so it kind of gave it a weird vibe in the press release. But you know, I think even though it was kind of embarrassing, the good thing is that the people who did come out were prepared to just physically exert themselves, and they did. Man, like, those kids were running around all day, like 8 hours straight, just, you know, circle pitting, moshing, whatever. You know, we were, like, trying to teach them some of the song parts, you know, like some of the lyrics in the songs, so they could sing along, and it turned out really cool. I mean, we saw a few frames as we were leaving, and it looked really, really good, so hopefully we'll be able to get that out before the end of Mayhem.
And on that note, you guys put out quite a lot of music videos. How important are music videos for you guys?
I think it's really important nowadays because, I mean, with entertainment changing, you know, digital downloads are on the rise, and I think people just, especially the younger generation, it takes a lot more to keep their attention. So simply just having this audio record to some of I think the younger audience is not maybe enough for them. So it's cool to have this video accompaniment, which is why, you know, so many kids are on YouTube watching our live videos, I guess. And so, you know, we put up a lyric video and we come to Mayhem 3 days later and there's people singing the lyrics, and, you know, I think it's become more of an overall experience. It's not just like, it's like the equivalent of, you know, there was silent film, you know, you'd see these beautiful films, but they didn't have music in it. You add music to it, and it's a whole other thing. I think that's the importance of videos nowadays. It kind of connects the experience, I guess, a little more, and to kids who maybe don't have the patience of, like, the dudes in the 80s who were listening on their Walkmans to the cassette tape. So.
On that note, what's your take on today's social media networking, and how do you use that to your advantage?
Well, I guess my overall take is I don't know whether at this point if it's cool or uncool that maybe there's not as much mystique around the bands, because I mean we love to get on, we get on Twitter, we get on Facebook and talk to our fans a lot, but we basically are updating these every day, and I think that it's really cool because we'll have a signing and it's like, oh, I saw you did this the other day, that was cool. It's cool to have that bond with the fans, but I think it remains to be seen whether or not that that sort of mystique that bands like had in the 80s and 70s is like still something that needs to be involved with the music. I don't know, so I guess I don't have an answer.
You guys say before that you're Christians playing in a band, but not a Christian band. Do you believe that one's faith changes the perception of how your fans perceive you?
Well, it's a weird thing because I want to say maybe in some of the earlier records, but since Frailwords collapsed, there have been very few songs that were outwardly religious in their message, and the kind of the notion that our band's a Christian band, we kind of were never able to escape that. Not that we felt it was a bad label or anything, but it definitely, there's a lot of people who, if they're not Christians, maybe they're a little turned off by the fact that we're a Christian band, or they've heard we're a Christian band. But what I always use it as an analogy is, there's plumbers and then there's Christians, and maybe that plumber is a Christian, but he wouldn't advertise himself as a Christian plumber because that's dumb. It's like we're writing music. We're not writing Christian music. We're writing songs that are musically sound on their own. It's not like we play a riff and somebody could be like, that's a Christian riff. It's kind of just a label that people feel a need to label things in as many ways as they can. People call us death metal, melodic death metal, metalcore, heavy metal. Like, it's just like music. It's you talk to the individual members of the band, we all have very differing beliefs, and like I think that is important for fans to know that that maybe every song is not a religious theme. Like there's some songs that are just about personal experiences, and most songs are about that. So.
And after this tour, you guys are heading to Europe with Trivium. What's your plans after that? Anything about a U.S. tour?
Yeah, we have a U.S. club tour that's planned for later after that. I want to say like the November, December time period, but we haven't actually announced it yet. So we're probably going to announce it maybe towards the end of this tour. But it's going to be a big one, I think. It's got some really cool bands on it. Like, we're not really allowed to talk about it yet, but it's going to be big, I think.
All right, thank you. And any last words for your fans?
Come out to Mayhem and pick up our record on September 25th, please. That's it.
All right, thank you very much.
I feel really bad for Randy because I've personally watched the video, and in my opinion, from being in similar situations on stage when a fan wouldn't leave, sometimes, whether it's the band or security or whoever, you want to get them off the stage because you have to play and you have to keep yourself safe and do your thing. So I feel really bad for Randy because I feel like maybe